There's probably no greater symbol of Auckland's urban failure than this, the Ports of Auckland. For 100 years, first the Auckland Harbour Board and now the Ports of Auckland have cut the city off from its harbour. But it's kind of worse than that. It's worse than just a physical barrier. It's a conflict of intentions, as whether Auckland is going to be a metropolis for people, an urban society, a civilised urban society, or whether it's going to be an industrial complex serving interests that aren't here at all. The whole of Auckland's urban infrastructure has felt the impact of this harbour and the expansion of this harbour, and now it's got to a point where Auckland has to decide whether it's going to be Ports of Auckland or Auckland City that becomes the place that actually contributes to New Zealand's civilisation, if one can call it that. And the irony of all is it all part of Auckland's history. Hobson settled on this place for the capital because he admired and responded to what he called its ease of access by water. Māori from the Hauraki Gulf traded here by water. The encouragement of Auckland settlers was because that was an economic resource for Hauraki Māori and for the iwi here on the isthmus itself. But all those things have kind of turned back on themselves and eaten it all up. And I think one of the great losses that I mourn most of all was just down the road here when I first came to Auckland was the Māori hostel. It was built 4 canoes at the bottom of Constitution Hill, where Māori from the Gulf pulled their canoes up on the beach, stayed overnight in the hospital, and they carried their produce into the city, or they carried their complaints up to Government House. And for a long, long time that stood there as a reminder of that connection, and then suddenly it vanished and it became a car park. And it's still a car park. And the irony of car parks in Auckland is that for some strange reason Auckland eats away at itself to make itself more accessible. And yet, as it makes itself more accessible, there's less to access. The motorway into the CBD, which largely serves the port, has carved away through the historic precincts of Grafton. The university has carved away at the other side of Grafton. Everything we kind of do to enlarge ourselves eats away a bit of our past. The irony is, or the extra irony is, that the Ports of Auckland are owned by Auckland's people. It's a public utility, and it's what is eating the city. There's no reason why this facility can't move south to Tauranga, where even if this port achieves its ambition and fills up the whole of this space with concrete and 10-storey stacks of containers, it will still not be as big or as efficient as Tauranga is now. There is no benefit, economic or social, certainly no benefit in urban civilization to have an industrial complex eat up the waterfront of a major city. No other city in the world does it. Everywhere it has gone, Sydney, even in Hong Kong, London, all those ports which used to be thriving in the doorways of the city have moved away and allowed their cities to grow. When will we let ours grow?